Hi guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Right, I know you guys like a weather update. Well, of course, it's absolutely chucking it down again. Just non-stop. It's almost June and it's chucking it. I think this is the April showers delayed. Because it's been like this now. We've had at least 24 hours of just full-on rain. And it just doesn't stop. It just keeps going. All the time. Non-stop rain. It's absolutely rubbish. Anyway. Weather update. Okay, 6G15 reverb unit. I have made quite a bit of progress on this. So, as I said before, I wanted to replace the 3 filter caps under the doghouse, which I've now done with some nice F&Ts. Fired the thing up through the light bulb limiter, went through it and started testing components in circuit. The yellow Astron was indeed extremely leaky. This is the coupling cap to the 6K6 reverb driver. It originally was a 2 nanofarad, so I've put a 2N2 in there, which is the modern replacement. I've done the 3 electrolytics as well. The cathode bypass cap there and there, and so they're both 25 microfarad, and this is a 250 microfarad. So I've done those. The 4 blue caps, 1, 2, 3, 4, all test okay. None of them are leaky, or at least at the point where you would replace them, apart from this one, which still tests good, but is getting there. So I'm going to leave this thing soak testing for a good couple of hours, and I'll come back and I'll measure it again, measure the leakage on that cap and see where we are. But apart from that, it's actually running great. All the voltages are bang on, which is great news. The 6K6 bias, it's a 1K resistor and it's perfect. I couldn't have got it anywhere better myself. The resistor has increased ever so slightly in value, but the bias on the valve itself is pretty much perfect. So yeah, good news on that. One of the controls, I think it's the tone control, is a tiny bit scratchy. So I'm going to get some cleaner in there, because I mean I've measured on the lugs and there's no DC, so I think it's just some dust inside. So we'll get those clean. We'll do the others at the same time. There's no varnishing on the jack sockets, which is good, and the rest of it is all okay. So good news on that. If all goes well, we can put this thing back together and then do some sound clips. Right, just working on this Ainsley Lister signature build. Someone asked, I can't remember if it was an email or comment, but why I don't use my chassis stands when I'm doing these Ainsley Lister builds. It's quite simply that the transformer on this side sits so close to the edge that it doesn't fit. So I have to go freehand, as it were, and mount it on this. And I've got this little block that I've drilled a hole in, which I use when I'm doing things on pots and sockets and bits and pieces. But I just wedge the reverb transformer in that hole, and it holds it at the perfect angle. So great. Right, so a couple of questions. Back to our Q&A. Yeah. About things and bits and pieces and how I work and what I do, and would I explain Rift in more detail. So I thought it would be a good idea if we did that. So, primarily Rift is, I mean, what I do is I'm a manufacturer of guitar amplifiers. You've all worked that out now. You can see, you know what I do. I've shown you enough around the workshop and done enough videos now that you guys know that what I do for a living is I build guitar amplifiers, and I do them from scratch. So a lot of the time I'm buying these chassis in, and I'm marking and drilling and punching and doing most of the work myself. It's not the most efficient way to build amplifiers. It's not the cheapest either. but it's the way I want to do it, and it's what my customers expect of me. If I wanted to be a millionaire in this game, I would have these things manufactured, so probably in the Far East, 1,000 units at a time. There's an unwritten rule in this industry that if you can design and manufacture and sell an amplifier at the £500-600, $800 mark, you'll very quickly become a millionaire. But that's not what I want to do. I'm not trying to be a millionaire. I'm just trying to earn a living and enjoy what I do every day. So, and I enjoy building amplifiers this way in my own build style, taking my time over it and just enjoying the process. There's never a day where I wake up and I don't want to come to work. And I think that's pretty rare, pretty special, and I want to keep it that way. So I build guitar amplifiers. That's what I do. And pricing them is pretty tricky. So I work out, there's the material cost, there's my time that needs to be covered. There's, any external work, things like when I get the chassis welded, or my transformers have to be wound for me. All that stuff is all calculated. I've got a unit here that I work out of, the old chicken shed on the farm here. It costs me pretty much £1,000 every month just to open the door, turn the lights on. So 12 grand a year is what I've got to make in profit just to cover the running costs of the building before I even pay myself. So I've got to balance all that up. I've got to make enough money to live on too, and that's I'm not trying to be a millionaire, just trying to make sure that I can support the family, maybe go on holiday once a year, do all these other bits and pieces. So not about greed, just about covering your costs really, and making sure everything is comfortable. So when I'm in pricing an amplifier, I have all those things I've got to take into account. The tax man gets a huge whack of that 4 times a year. I have to pay the tax man. My accountant sends me a hefty bill once a year to do my returns and filings. So there's a lot to consider. But I am just now a one-man operation, full time anyway. I've got people, obviously my cabinet builders, who, whilst they run their own businesses, I consider them as part of the Riff family. So when they charge me for a cabinet, I feel like I'm paying them as well. And that's how it is. So what I do is I build amplifiers and I charge what I think is a fair price. Someone said to me once, as long as you do a decent job and you don't rip people off, your business will always succeed. And that's something I've always tried to stick to. Charge what is fair and reasonable for the standard of work that you're doing, right? I certainly couldn't charge what I was doing if my build standard was lower and they weren't engineered to the same standard and bits and pieces like that. But also, you can't undervalue your work. I couldn't be building these amplifiers for half the cost, or 2/3 of the cost that they are now, because the business would fail very, very quickly. So it's one of those things. Now, on the repair side of the business, I'm not I know the channel has a lot of repairs that come through the door. I'm not a dedicated repair shop. There are quite a few places in the UK that are set up dedicated repair and service centres for amplifiers. Some places are small one-man operations, others are quite large. Some of them are authorised repair centres for the bigger manufacturers. Some people, specialise in hi-fi. Some people specialise in just the vintage stuff, and everywhere in between. I'm not a dedicated repair centre. The repairs just come with the territory of being an amp builder. I take on repairs mainly just to help the local musicians because I'm the only guy now in I think it's now a 60-mile radius. I'm the only place where you could take an amp for repair. There's a lot of stuff I don't take on for various reasons. But generally, if you've got an amplifier and it needs repairing, then, you know, I'm usually happy to help. But it's not my primary... it's not the main part of my business. That's the best way to put it. So, how do I charge for repairs? Now, I have an hourly rate, but what I do is I charge a bench fee, and that's a flat fee of £75 plus VAT, which is UK sales tax, which is 20%. That works out as £90. And that 90 quid covers the first 2 hours of labour. So if you bring your amp into me, it's going to cost you at least 90 quid for me to look at. Now, reason I say it covers the first 2 hours labour is that when I'm working on the amplifier, if I see the problem and I can fix it, I then don't have to ring the customer and say, can I do this? They've already brought the amp in for repair, they want it fixed, and if I can do it within that 2 hours, they've pre-authorised it. And it's an easy way for me just to get on with the work and get things done. So, amp comes in, we notice it's got a cracked valve socket. Well, I've got it on the bench, I'm going to do it there and then and get the amp fixed and back together, tested, and back out the door. I haven't got to ring the customer for that authorisation. And I have 2 rules about that bench fee, and that covers diagnostics and things like that. And I have a no fix, no fee rule, which I'll go into. The basic rule of that is if I cannot tell you what is wrong with the amplifier, I don't charge you. You don't pay the bench fee. Simple as that. Some people say, well, that's stupid. It's your time that you're wasting there, that you're giving away free. No, it's not. Absolutely not. It's very rare that that happens. You know, I could think maybe in the last 5 years, I can think of maybe one occasion where I haven't been able to diagnose an amplifier. So it just doesn't happen. But I want my customers to know that if, for whatever reason, I don't have the skill to diagnose your amplifier, you're not going to pay for it. Okay? And that really comes from, some of you know that I'm a car guy, and I do a lot of my own, you know, I run my own race car, I repair my own vehicles, but sometimes there's something where I've got to take my car into a garage, repair shop. And the thing that annoys me the most is when a garage says, we can't tell you what's wrong with your car, here's a bill. You need to pay us whatever their diagnostic fee is. And I think, but if you haven't diagnosed it, why are you charging me? And I think that's just that, you know, I understand it's your time, but if you're not skillful enough to diagnose an issue, you shouldn't be charging for it. And that's just me, that's where I am, and that's how I want to do it. Now, if I can tell you what's wrong with your amplifier and you decline the repair, you've still got to pay, right? So you don't get to use my skill and my knowledge to tell you what's wrong with your amplifier and then take it home and repair it yourself without covering my time. So that's a different thing. So that's how I work. If I can't tell you what's wrong with it, you don't pay. If I can tell you what's wrong with it and you decline, then you do have to pay. Now, that 2 hours thing, usually by the time I found out what's wrong with the amplifier, I've usually fixed it. So those scenarios, whilst I'm pretty hardcore on those, they rarely actually come up because, as I said, by the time I've opened the amplifier up, got it on the test bench, gone through my procedure, I know what's wrong with it, and usually I fixed it. If, like that Tweed Deluxe that was in a couple of weeks ago with the Mercury Magnetics transformer, obviously I had to ring the customer to get approval for that repair because there was labour time on top of the 2 hours that I needed to do the replacement and the test, and there's the cost of the unit itself. So I had to ring the customer and say, This is what it's going to cost. Can I get authorization to do that repair? He said yes, so obviously we've got the repair done. He's now collected the amplifier and it's running and playing great. Fantastic. But if when I rang him and said it needs a new output transformer, this is what it's going to cost, and he said no, don't do it, he would have still had to have paid my diagnostic fee because I was able to tell him what was wrong with the amplifier. All right. So that's how the repair side of my business works. Now, any repairs that take longer than that initial 2 hours, I charge for in half-hour blocks, and I charge £60 an hour, including VAT, so it's 50 plus sales tax, 20%, which makes 60. But I do that in half-hour blocks. So if it takes me 2.5 hours for a total repair, you'll pay the 90 quid for the first 2 hours, and then you'll pay 30 quid on top, and then plus any parts and bits and pieces like that. So hopefully that explains how it all works. And that all comes back to do a decent job, don't rip people off. Right, so that's that sorted. Right, I haven't done any building on this, so we need to crack on. What else was I going to say to you guys? We've been waffling for 13 minutes now. Yes, most of you would have noticed I didn't get a video out on Sunday. And also, I didn't put one out on Wednesday. A couple of things, really. I put the video out last Wednesday, and then I only had a couple of days to film more stuff for Sunday's video. Now, I was very, very busy. I had loads of work on. I didn't get a lot filmed. And what I did have wasn't enough. There wasn't enough context, enough story, enough bits and pieces to actually put a video together. And so I decided not to put something out for the first time in a long time. Where's this one going? It's that one. It's cathode. Yeah, so I didn't put a video out in a long time. So you all got a break from me, and I didn't have to worry about editing and putting a video together on top of all the other stuff I had to get done. I finally got some higher speed internet at home. We've been waiting 2 years to be out of contract with our old supplier, so I could actually get high speed internet at home, which means hopefully I'll be able to get stuff uploaded quicker, which means I might be able to start doing more content for you guys to enjoy. I am going to start live streaming again. The upload speed here at the workshop, I use Starlink here, has been really good. But lately, the upload speed has dropped slightly. So the live streaming, I did some off camera. So I did some tests that were invisible to you guys. The quality just wasn't there, so I need to sort that out. I need to give them a call and check that it's not an issue. But yeah, anyway, hope that all makes sense. I need to get this build done because we need to get this thing out the door. Right, Cornford is done. All back together. It's been here for a couple of more weeks than originally planned because the owner was out of the country. So I've just given it a final play test. I'm happy with it. So there's not really much more to say on this amp other than I did put some glue in the cracks, injected that, sort the cabinet out. What did I do to the amp in the repair? Well, do you remember we sorted the bias out on it? The bias was cold. Found a microphonic valve in V1, so we put a nice 7025 in there and just generally give it a good service and a once over. So as I said in a previous video, I'd be happy enough to gig this now, so hopefully the customer is too. So yeah, so this one's going out. He's collecting on Friday, and yeah, not much else to say. Just give it a clean. Right, here is the AC30 CC2X, which is I think it's the 90s or early 2000s reissue. Now, in my head, I've had one of these in before, but I don't remember it being so difficult and such a faff to get this chassis out of the cabinet. What an absolute palaver that was. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll give this thing a quick look over, see if we can spot anything obvious, and take it from there. So this is the front side of the chassis, where you can see you've got your 4 EL84s, your GZ34 rectifier, and hidden over the back there are your 3 preamp valves. This section is usually hidden when the chassis is in the amplifier, and when you take the back panel off, you can see the rear side there. So when we've got the chassis out, we can take a good look, and this is our output transformer. Here it is, and if I zoom in, we can see it's dated September 2005, so this is a mid-2000s amplifier. It's loaded with a quad of Mullard reissue EL84s. So I think these are actually Russian made, and you can see some slight discoloration on the logo there, where these things have probably been running slightly hot. Although I don't see any signs of scorching on the valve base there. I'll just pop that back in. Yes, so we've got the quad there. Get that clip on, there you go. Zoom you out again. Our choke is also dated September 2005. And our mains transformer, also dated September 2005. And this one's got a shield around it, which is starting to go a little bit rusty, a bit of surface rust on there. So, but this amp has got a lot of dust on. So, I don't see any main or anything to concern on this side. Any causes of concern. All the valves generally look okay. Again, just some slight discoloration where they've been running quite hot, which is honestly quite normal for these. Anyway, let's give this thing a flip up, and we can see the underside of the chassis. So here we've got our mains transformer, and as I zoom you in, here's our filter board with the 4 22 microfarad filter caps on. And you remember we had that switch on the rear which allowed us to switch between 22 and 44. So obviously that switch will bring in an extra cap. I'm not sure which one it will be. It might be these two. So we're either running one of those, or it brings another one in parallel, and capacitors in parallel, they sum together, so that'll give us our 44 microfarad, and that's where we had that noticeable drop in hum. We come round and we have a look. The vent holes seem to be okay. Try and get you in focus. Yeah, they seem to be alright, don't they? Okay. Come on, focus. There we go. Let me zoom you in even further. There. So I don't see any signs of these things physically leaking, but we can still check if they're electrically leaking, which might be helpful. So that's that board there. Focus. There we go. And if we come up, we can see that's our rectifier valve socket there. And here are 4 output sockets, and you can see we've got direct connections from the board to the socket for both the screen and grid stoppers. 2, 3, and 4. I like it when these things are easily accessible, so I can take measurements without having to, weave my probe right in and behind stuff. I can get straight on the socket. That is good. Right, so that's the underside of the board. And we'll just spin it around and we'll look at the part that you can see normally when you remove the back panel of the amplifier. Here we go. I'll just get some more light on it for you. Hopefully that's better. So you can see our 3 preamp valve sockets here, 1, 2, and 3. And we've got all of our components. PCB board, obviously. But I haven't been able to see so far anything that causes a main concern. So just want to test those filter caps, make sure they're okay. And the noise that he's brought it in for, I will be removing both of the speakers from the cabinet and bench testing those individually, because I do wonder if the noise was actually a speaker noise, so a mechanical thing, rather than the noise coming through the audio circuit itself. So anyway, yeah, that's the Vox AC30 CC2X on the bench visual inspection. So I did put this out on my social media, but I'll include this in the video as well. So this is a B-stock X demo style PR35 cabinet in blonde and oxblood that's got a couple of dings and dents and whatnot, but overall is in a pretty nice condition. It's certainly not the worst cabinet I've seen. So what I'm offering is, if you're thinking about ordering a PR35, either in black or brown spec, you can choose to have it in this cabinet, and I'm knocking quite a bit off the price. It's listed as a B-stock build on the website already. So if you're thinking about it and you wouldn't mind having a cabinet with some battle scars on it and whatnot, then you're more than welcome to opt for this rather than a new one and save a good chunk of change. But yeah, PR35 cabinet, see ya there as well. PR35 cabinet, smooth blonde, oxblood, road worn. Okay, so update on the tape deck. So I've gone through and started replacing bits and pieces and measuring things as we go. I've had to, these are all the victims so far. So we've got 2 electrolytic caps that needed to go. The big red cap had to go, and all of those wax caps, all of them tested leaky. So they've all been done. New components in place. Most of the resistors that I've measured are still within tolerance. There's one resistor, I can't remember which one it is right now, but I will remember. I think it's this 270K. This one here. Red, violet, yellow. That's borderline, absolute borderline. So we'll see how it goes. I'm working on a solution for the can cap. Now, the 232 microfarad sections both test okay. Low ESR, no leakage. They seem to be okay. The 25 microfarad section, which is a 25, is showing, I mean, it measures around 40 microfarad, but that's because it's leaking. All right, so the tester gets a bit confused when it leaks, when you're doing a capacitance test. So I think what we're going to do is not use that section of the can and mount a separate capacitor just for that section and wire that in instead. I think that's the best solution that we're going to go for. But yeah, so I'm nearly close to firing this one up and seeing if we can get the thing working. Lots of interest in this, so thank you very much. Yeah, it's all good so far. Enjoying this. It's nice to get stuck into something different. And we should have this thing fired up and working for the customer quite soon. But yeah, that's progress on that. Let's move on. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. I do need to apologise that there was no video on Sunday. As I've said previously, I just didn't get enough filmed and enough context around stuff to really put something worthy out. So we left it for that week. For those that are interested and did ask how my race went on Saturday at Silverstone, well, I did win. There you go, first place. Very, very happy. It's a monster trophy there. So it's my First win this season, in only my second race this season. So very, very pleased with how that went. It wasn't smooth sailing. I had a brake failure in qualifying, which I'll put a clip in now. So we had to quickly fix that before the race. Thankfully, it was an easy fix. Race went really well. I put it on pole position, qualified. So on the front row, race started. I dropped back to second. Got stuck behind a slower driver from one of the upper classes. So I had to make my way past him. Eventually caught up with first place, overtook them. And then I finished, we think it was a 38-second gap I had at the end of the race. So absolutely destroyed the field. Mega happy with it all. So yeah, that was a good way to spend a Saturday. So doing it all again this Saturday, this time up at Alton Park in Cheshire. One of my absolute favourite circuits, mega place. Can't wait. The weather, currently it's raining, of course, but the weather is looking good. So fingers crossed we get another dry race. Racing against loads of my friends this time. Loads of guys I know, so really looking forward to having some good battles. And fingers crossed that goes well. So I'll give you an update on that on next Wednesday's video. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps. All your comments down below. I do try and read them all. Join the channel if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. It really helps. These guys have, mega supporters of the channel. Thank you so much. And I shall catch you all at the next one.